Welcome, friends, to the Someone Gets Me podcast. I am your host, Dianne A, and I am so delighted that you're here. This podcast was created because I believe there is a visionary leader inside each one of us who is waiting to be seen. In each episode of Someone Gets Me, you will hear useful tips from successful visionaries who will share their stories about how being seen has allowed them to take their vision out into the world with action. The courage to be heard, finding your purpose and speaking it out loud. Hi, everybody. It's Dianne at Someone Gets Me, and I'm here with my really good friend, Mark. Now, Mark was introduced to me by two of my friends almost simultaneously. And so I know that somebody is a really amazing neurodivergent person who's gifted when two of my neurodivergent gifted friends in the same week told me about him. So, of course, I had to go find him. So we have connected several times since then. He is in Florida. And of course, I feel like I'm in Florida, even though I'm in North Carolina. And so Mark is this amazing connector. When you're talking to him, he just can see things and he puts data points together just like you guys do. So you're going to love this show because we're going to talk about using your voice in a way that's meaningful. So Mark, welcome to the show, to Someone Gets Me. And thanks for spending time with me today. This is going to be so fun.
I am so excited to be here and grateful to be part of the show. Finally, to have someone get me.
Right. I know it's so exciting to connect with people who get us, where we don't have to explain our language or explain something. They just get it. Right.
You were talking about the connecting the dots, and Steve Jobs said you can only connect the dots looking backwards. And for me, I connect the dots looking forward. And it seems very natural to me, and others just don't get it. So yeah, I think that we all have our own little divergence.
Right. And you're reminding me of a client that I work with and have been for a long time. And we talk about the connecting the dots all the time. And she connects them going forward and can see the different layers and things. Mm-hmm. And it's a natural gift she has. And once I started pointing it out, she goes, yeah, I really do that. Now she really totally appreciates it. But coming down is the courage to speak your truth. Have you ever had people I see it, and I bet you do too, where people have this cool gift and you can see it, but they don't know it's a gift.
Oh yeah.
And
usually the most valuable gifts that they have are the ones that they take for granted.
Yes.
Oh no, that's just something I do. Just like me with the connection thing. It's like, oh, that's easy. I can't charge for that. Or no, that's not the special thing. It's like, no, that's what everybody loves.
Right. The thing that feels so easy and natural to us is the thing.
So often true.
Oh, that's the paradox. It's so funny. So I'd love you to share a little bit about when and how you started getting excited about connecting people and speaking and having purpose in your world and the things that drive you now. Tell us a little bit about how this all started. Did a switch flip, or did it kind of gradually sneak up on you? How did it happen?
There's a little bit of both. The long story is when I was in high school, my friends used to call me Mark Porteous because I would throw parties at my house that would include all the different groups. It wasn't segregated like just the certain group of kids, and it wasn't even our rival high schools would come, and they would all get along. And now in business, people call me Mark Partner Us. One of my clients kind of coined that phrase for me of Mark Partner Us because they're really about bringing people together. But it really did happen almost overnight. When I was 22 years old, working for Greenpeace International, my girlfriend brought me into my very first metaphysical bookstore called The Spiral Circle, and a bumper sticker changed my life.
What was the bumper sticker? I have to know.
Right. And then you've said it probably 1,000 times or more. Certainly read it, talked about it, that we are not human beings having spiritual experiences. We're spiritual beings having human experiences. Yeah. It was Teilhard de Chardin, a Jesuit priest. Most of his stuff is very deep and heavy, hard to read. But that one phrase helped me to make everything else that I had been learning and studying about spirituality to all make sense. And when I read that quote, I wanted to write a book about my understanding of the human experience. My father had written 3 books already, and so I was excited to go home and tell my dad and get his acknowledgement that I'd follow in his footsteps as an author and write about the human experience. And my dad's first advice to me was, well, don't expect to make any money writing a book. You need to have a business, not just a book. And I didn't realize at the time that the business could be related to the book. Right. all the things that I know now are very, very different. So I created a whole side business to fund my passion rather than just writing the book. I created a whole side project selling souvenirs at amusement parks and ended up having 100 employees. One of them is now my wife. It's a long story, but she was 20 years old at the time, and she's been managing my life literally for over 25 years. I wouldn't have met her if it weren't for that little side hustle, the side track that is trying to support this thing. But even after that, I sold my business. Then I went into sales, figuring, okay, I can write the human experience, working for somebody else. It won't consume all my time. But in the process, I started winning trips to exotic places, Jamaica, the Bahamas. Every year, I was getting some of these cool trips from Time Warner and then Spectrum. And 2 years that I was going to take to write my book turned into 10 years. And my twins were my wife was pregnant with twins. And I realized how fast 10 years had gone because of being kind of comfortable and realized that I hadn't pursued my passion. I hadn't written this book, and that the next 10 years of my life would probably go by much faster after having two babies at once.
Mhm.
And that if I didn't do something different, I would end up teaching them called the deferred lifestyle of putting off my purpose and my passion so that they would have safety and security, and they would learn the same thing, and they would have the same golden handcuffs of you got to live life a certain way to get certain results instead of going to what was natural for them. And so I knew I had to do something differently. And by the time they were a year old, I had the human experience written. And then it was my wife that said, okay, now what? What do you want to do? And I looked at, she was the one who suggested online coaching. I'd never heard of coaching. I didn't know anybody who had a coach. I didn't know anybody who was coached, other than like it's athletic coaching. So we
Right.
looked up online, like what do coaches make? In 2012, they were making less than $20,000 a year on average. It's gone all the way up to $30,000 a year now, but again, I was like, okay, that's not going to work. What else can
Right.
we do? And she said, well, you've never been an average salesperson. Why do you think you'll be an average coach? So we looked at the top coaches were making at least six figures, some of them seven and eight figures, Tony Robbins and that. And then a lot of people that were promising, if you do exactly what I did, you'll make six figures in your first year. And that was the first time I learned some of the lies of the transformation industry.
Yes. The lies of it, all those. Yes.
Because you can never say
Absolutely.
if you do the same thing as me, you're going to get the same results because
Right.
no two people are really the same.
Right. And over the time I've had in my business, in this particular one, I've had different business coaches here and there, for support and, ideas and stuff and marketing. And one of them particularly who was amazing looked at me one day and he goes, I don't know what it is about you, but nothing with your world or your life is standard. It doesn't fit into any of those models. I said, well, I've never fit into any model. So of course it doesn't. And so it's been a real tricky being somebody like me who's just not in a box at all.
Right.
To have people try to say, well, here, do this cookie cutter thing and it'll work. In fact, I even have clients call me and they go, I don't want a program that's a cookie cutter. And I'm like, I don't do that.
I remember my very first coach asked me what my niche was going to be. And I told him I wanted to be a spiritual coach. And he literally laughed at me and said, well, you're not going to make any money as a spiritual coach. He said, you can pick any niche you want, but it has to be one of these three. You can pick health, wealth, or love. And then you can sneak in spirituality like medicine and the dog food. Those are his words verbatim.
All
And I think
right.
that's a very common thing. It's a very common thing that's been taught down. Like these are the things that people will invest in. They won't invest in their spirituality or even off their well-being. But that's not true. I know I've invested tens of thousands of dollars, and I've worked with lots of coaches that are making millions of dollars in spirituality and in
Right.
personal development and
Yeah. I
peak
think that's
experience.
all. I think it's all growing. I think people are really thirsty for connection and spiritual things, whatever that would feel like to them. Have you noticed it over your time working with all these different people? You mostly work with entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
Um, have you noticed an increase or a change in people's perceptions or thoughts about spirituality over time? Are people more open or closed, or do you notice, or what kind of flavor are you seeing?
Sure. And it's interesting because again, I've been observing this since I was 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
My father was a minister until I was six, and when he and my mom divorced, he was kicked out of the church that he had started. So I became very aware of different religions early on. And so sometimes I think that people are more aware of it than maybe I give too much credit. But I do see a lot of people that one are just questioning the programming because they're questioning everything. They're questioning government, they're questioning religion, and so there are people that are more trusting in inner guidance than as a strict dogma
Hmm.
of religion. Because I know a lot of people that grew up very religious. I know other people that really weren't religious at all, but now they're very spiritual. So I think that there's this thing of not religious but spiritual.
Right. So the people are seeking and they're curious. And I think you're right. I mean, I see people not trusting almost anything anymore. They have to check out everything because you don't know what's real and what's not real at all, especially even with more and more AI and more of all these other things out in the world where you're going, is it real? I don't know, you know?
With news,
Yeah.
with anything. Yes.
Right. With anything. I was, what was I, was it an email? I was emailing some company I bought something from or whatever. And finally I said, you must be AI because you're not answering any of my questions properly to what I wrote. And and then it came back with, no, I assure you I'm a human. And then the next sentence had improper grammar. So I'm like, well, whoever programmed you, you don't know English very well. So I'll make a phone call. It's still even when they said they were human, I didn't believe it.
But if you
Yeah.
are a human, you're not communicating well as a human.
Right. Right. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. All right, well, we're just going to keep on going, Diane. Just do the next thing, like that. So I say a lot of the times, and you on my podcast, and I teach my people something that I think is very close to your heart as well. And that phrase is connection is the correction. That if
Mm.
we feel out of alignment, or if we feel alone, or we're just having a day, that connection is the correction. And I also think it's the correction in healing grief and anger, personally, family wise, and in our society. And I know that you're the soul connector, right? And you are great at connecting people, which is why my two friends told me I had to know you. They're like, you have to know him. You're going to love him. And I'm like, yes, I do. Okay. And so tell me a little bit about what is the magic in bringing people together? How come it's so important to connect like in person? Because you do a lot of in-person things, and I think people are missing that some with the electronics.
Hmm. Well, I'll start with going back to kind of how I acquired the moniker of the Soul Connector. My mentor, Alan Davidson, was an evolutionary mystic meditation teacher who happened to be a world-class JV launch manager. He had managed or done the strategy for over 100 huge launches, six-figure, seven-figure launches for some of the big names in our industry, part of Jeff Walker's first program. And he was actually at a Margaret Lynch event, who's a EFT tapper and very good friends with Alan. And was in his morning meditation, had gotten this download that I am the soul connector. I connect people to three different things. One is connecting to who you are at soul level. And that's really the first part of it. I believe that we're all divine beings that have chosen this life for a reason. And I have a vision for a world where we can all see each other and ourselves as divine beings and live with that knowing. So that's the first and most important part. And then the second part is connecting to your soul purpose. How do you live your mission and monetize your mission? How do you create something that is both your vocation and your avocation? It's something that you're passionate about, but that also generates wealth and abundance for you. What is the path for that? How do you find the different pieces that you need for that? And then the last piece is connecting to your soul tribe, which is what most people actually hire me for, is attracting your perfect customers, building your dream team. First of all, your perfect customers, those are the people that you are here to serve. And you have to really understand that that's when you look at it, like those aren't just people you're selling to, but those are really that's what you're here to do. That's what gets the mission done. And then the dream team are the people that are there to help support you, whether those are your coaches, the people that are giving the strategy, or the people that are on your team getting it done. We've talked about our VAs and how important that mechanic is. And then the last part is your affiliate ambassadors, people like you who have a community of aligned minds and you want to share other people's messages with your audience. And so for me, the connecting part is really exciting. But what I have found in the past was I would connect people just because they were doing something that was similar. They were doing things that were together, but one person was aligned with who they were at soul level, and the other person was saying all the right things, but really hadn't done the work. They really were, those people. And when you bring those together, it creates a wobble because one of them is like a line and the other one is just off. And so
Right.
I find that's why it's so important to really make sure that first, the people that I'm connecting with are connected and aligned with their values, their vision, their mission, so that when I connect them to other people who are aligned, it just creates these synchronicities and the magic that can amplify everybody's message and mission.
Oh, that is beautiful. And it's so true. I call the misaligned people pseudo spiritual, because they think they're there.
And they're the ones who are so judgmental about everybody else who doesn't
Yes.
have it, doesn't have all the things they've got.
Right. And I see it so much. And when you're talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm having all these flashbacks of all these different situations. And I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, that's wonderful. And I think it's so important too to be connected with ourselves in order to then be connected out. I think we're taught, and well, Aristotle was the one who started, the outside in thing. And
Right.
and really what we're talking about is an internal locus of control. We have to be connected and aligned within in order to then have authentic, real connection outside.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so if you meet somebody who's really intrigued by the work you do and being a human being and trying to figure out this experience, and you can see that there's a misalignment, but they can't see it yet, what are some things that you would suggest to somebody? Because there's people listening here who think they have it all figured out. It's all in their head. They have yet to drop the information into their heart or their soul, and they're wondering why they're wobbling. I love that phrase. Or they wonder why they're wobbling. So, what would you suggest to somebody who is feeling the wobble and may not know like what it's about? And like your words are starting to get their attention right now.
Sure. There's two things. One is being open to guidance,
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't matter what you get, what synchronicities come your way. If you already have all the paths and all the answers, you're going to miss so much. So if you're open to it, then you can tap into the inner guidance. This I have spent a lot of money on is I thought all women were just intuitive and men just were not. What I realized is that for me, it was about not knowing the difference between my ego or my mind versus my heart, and thinking like I had to validate decisions. And so being able to trust my heart, my intuition, and then back it up with validation from my mind is a big part of it. So I think that for most people, if you're open to the guidance, if you're running into struggles, if things aren't quite working out for you, if you're open to something coming, first just saying, yes, I'm open-minded to it, then either it'll drop in, you'll get the intuitive hit, or somebody will show up in your life that will respond to the thing that you're hurting and missing. And then when you say yes to that opportunity, because that's the big thing, is like when you hear the guidance and you're like, oh yes, I know it, and then you ignore it and you do the other thing, guidance is like, well, screw you. Why do I keep telling you what to do if you're not going to listen to me anyway? So I think that's the biggest thing is one, opening to the guidance, listening for the guidance, and then taking action on the guidance
Oh, I
internally.
love it. I just remembered when I was very first starting my spiritual walk, like, um, my whole big like, oh yeah, I was in a metaphysical bookstore too. So when you're telling your story, I'm like, there's so many similarities. Um, and I remember like trying to get out of my head, like thinking about it all, and I'm being okay, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm dissecting language from people, and there were all these pseudo spiritual people, but I didn't know they were pseudo spiritual because I didn't know it yet. I still was real naive to
They
it
have
all.
this really cool vocabulary that makes them sound spiritual without the pseudo.
Right. And so what I did was I went, okay, what I have to do is just say yes to and be open. And then it'll sort itself out. That's what I have to do. And it was a moment of inner kind of like desperation, it felt like, but it was probably a little bit more of a download, right? So I would be walking around at work, at home, all over the place going, I don't know what it is, universe, but my answer is yes. Even if my human self doesn't want to do it, my answer is yes. I'm going to follow the spiritual guidance and I don't care where it leads or what happens. And the answer is yes. Even when my ego, that's not my amigo, says no, I go still say yes. And it's saved my life more than once, but I didn't know I didn't know it was a thing that I was doing until
Hmm.
much later. I'm like, oh, that's what that was. So now I don't see that time as desperation. I see it more as inspiration now. But at the time, it didn't feel that way.
One of my favorite mentors is Michael Singer, who wrote The Surrender Experiment and The
Mm-hmm.
Untethered Soul. And that was really what changed his life, was being able to say yes to the inner guidance, whatever his inner guidance led him to, even if his brain didn't back it up, he would say yes to. And the difference is like there's a lot of opportunities. Like I get so many opportunities, so many invitations to be on podcasts and summits and different things that I've learned that to say yes to the ones that are aligned. So there's a discernment because sometimes the universe will test you out to see are you desperate and are you going to say yes to this opportunity because it sounds really juicy, but you know it doesn't feel aligned, or are you going to trust your inner guidance and say no to the things that are not a fit? Because that's one of the things my mentor, Nancy Jutton, says that if it's not a fit, you must not commit.
Right. Yes. And when you say no to the thing that's not a fit, you're actually saying yes, even stronger to your alignment and to
Yeah.
your purpose. And I think so many people miss that. They think they have to take all the opportunities or all the invitations. And that no, you take what's aligned when you're aligned, and
Yeah.
and it's much more empowering that way. And you don't walk around with all that frenetic energy.
But yes, if you say all the yes to all of the aligned opportunities, you will have a golden path of crumbs that leads you right
Yes.
to the castle.
Yep. Very, very easily. Very
Yeah.
easily. So share a little bit about a transformation of somebody that you've worked with that when you think about them, it makes you smile. Now, I know there's thousands of people that fit that category, but what popped in your head first? Like, because people are listening to us and they're probably going, yeah, but I can't get where they are. I had a client one time tell me, well, it's a good thing you've been patient with me all these years because you could see what I couldn't for a long time, which is true. But I know how to meet people where they are. And so if somebody's listening to us and they're just kind of going, well, I don't know, what's a little journey, an example journey of somebody you think about, you smile and go, yeah, that was really good.
Hmm. Um, so yeah, we have a lot of different like professional successes around people being able to grow their business. My favorite stories are really about people feeling more aligned and more excited in their lives, which sometimes isn't about making more money, but about having more freedom and more time and more systems and structures to be able to enjoy the money that they're making. And sometimes it's even about like stepping away from business and having a passion project. So we have a client who is very, very well known in the industry for helping professionals growing through their websites, but also as a passion project for the quest for the divine and being able to help people that are seekers that have questions, whether they're people that have not really grown up spiritual and are wanting to have more of an inclination, or people that have grown up religious and are seeing other opportunities for their spiritual growth. And again, I think that being able to feel the balance of like this bigger conversation that she wants to have, while also being able to balance the other vocation that is really what's been bringing in all the money. To me, that's the more fun part, to have people not just being able to serve others, but also getting really passionate about living their mission.
Yes, I think that's wonderful. And most of us are multi-potentialites, even if we don't know it.
Multi-potentialites.
Yes, most of us are, who are in this kind of world. And so finding that passion project or that extra thing feeds that multi-potentialite part because again, we're trained we should only do one thing. And
Hmm.
that's not true.
Right.
And so when we get to do a passion thing or we get to do something extra, it feeds that part of us that's natural to be a multi-potentialite and say, okay, I can do more than one thing.
Yes, and do them well. I don't have to sacrifice one thing to have more of the other.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Everything can flourish. That's amazing. So you do all these really amazing things and you have a very busy life. And I would be curious if you would share things you do for your own personal health, wellness, decompression. How do you deal with stress? Because you're a gifted multi-potentialite guy, and men typically aren't even seen as being intuitive and spiritual. So that's a very interesting thing for you to walk around the world that people don't get that half the time. So what do you do to take care of Mark?
Well, it's very interesting too because I talked about being on a spiritual path since I was very young, 12 years old, but also thinking about being a father since I was about 12 years old, and probably also related to that same divorce. Now I look at I really have three spiritual paths. One of them is my business. One of them is being a husband, and one of them is being a father. Those are also things that nourish me and fill me up. We have movie night on Tuesday nights or game nights, and we do vacations. And so to me, that's a big part of it is having a balanced life where it's like a generator. A battery doesn't die in a car because when it's running, the car is recharging the battery. If it had to just, if it didn't have that, if you didn't have an alternator, then the battery would just eventually die very, very quickly, actually. And so
Right.
to me, like I feel like I have these different parts, and I need to be able to separate out from all of those parts about being a husband and being a business owner, especially because we're doing those things together. My wife and I being a parents together and also running a business together. So even things like meditation, having that morning time. She has her time to do the things that she wants to do, and I have time in the morning between working out, meditating, and even connecting, journaling a lot of times, and exercise. I think having physical movement makes us both feel better, and our bodies also appreciate it.
Yeah, that's right. I think a lot of people who are gifted and underestimate the power of movement, even if it's just standing up. If you're sitting in a place where you're sitting a lot and working, to stand up and move around. Or I gave one of my clients a homework the other day to do silly dancing and some facial aerobics, like just get the muscles moving in your body. And she looked at me and was like, "What?" I go, "Yeah, try it. You'll see. You will feel different because you'll feel more free."
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Silly dancing. I like that.
Yeah. Uh,
And nature too is another thing. We moved in March, and um, we're kind of in the suburbs, and we just moved a little bit further out, only 10 minutes away, but we're surrounded by a natural wildlife preserve. So we see deer and bear and bald eagles and everything like feet away. I have lots of video on my Facebook of deer that I pass within 3 feet during my bike rides.
Wow, that is amazing. Yeah, that's one of the things I noticed moving up here is that, all the wildlife is just spectacular. And the songbirds up here are so different than birds in Florida. It's like, it's just, there's something about nature and the moon. I have selenophilia very badly.
Mm.
I love the moon.
But you brought up birds too. Like that's another thing in my morning meditation. Even though I am in Florida, I have the little app and it can tell me all the different birds that I'm hearing, and it sounds like an orchestra. And to just have that natural music playing,
It's
it's
beautiful.
healing.
It's so beautiful, and I always imagine that the birds are like singing and waking up the trees and waking up the grass and welcoming the day,
Hmm.
and there's one of my neighbors who gets very like, the birds are in noise. I said, it's beautiful though. Listen to them. They're serenading us.
Yeah.
Then I have another friend who loves a bird so much she imitates their call and then they talk back to her. And it's like two completely different people in the same age group too, which is kind of interesting. And my friend who can call to the bird, like we could walk down the block anywhere and she'll hear a bird or see it, and then she'll just start, and then that bird will follow us and talk to her. And I'm like, I go, "You're really connected to the bird." She goes, "Oh yes, I love the birds."
Hmm.
It's beautiful when we have that kind of soul connection in the world, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, with nature, that's amazing.
And it's very cool. So if you were going to give a couple tips of advice to somebody who's really wants to go after their purpose, but they just don't know where to start and they're listening to us, what would you tell them?
It starts with my belief around the fact that we are all divine beings that have chosen this life for a reason. And to be able to have that knowing, like to really to believe that they are a divine being with this important message, um, it creates something special. One, it helps to build the courage that we were talking about earlier. I think that's a really important thing right now more than ever. There's a lot of chaos, a lot of fear out in the world, and I think the chaos is likely to um, build over the next couple of years. And the light workers, the people with these important messages, it's a really important time to be courageous with your vision and your message and to be able to share it. You don't have to share it with the whole world if you're not ready, but at least share it with other people, other podcasts, other stages, other friends. Be part of community. Join community where you can speak your truth with compassion and where other people can support you in getting your message out there. Uh, that to me is the antidote to the fear and the chaos.
Yes, I love it. And what you're talking about in my world is spiritual safety and emotional safety, to speak it to your people and find a community where you can share what's important to you and your passion. You can speak your truth and not be ridiculed or attacked, where you're safe to be you. Because I think
Don't
so.
look for social media as that place. Like
No,
that's not
social
like
media is not it. No,
yeah, yeah.
no.
There might be small communities within social media, but again, you want to be in safe communities. You're not out there on your page just blasting how you feel every day to having people combat you and all the other stuff. I think yes, having safe space is really important right now.
Yes, I totally agree. And so that's why on my social media, there's not a whole lot of me saying anything somebody can bat back. Um, because I think that it's important that, especially those of us who are really emotionally and spiritually sensitive, to keep ourselves safe. And we have to be a steward of who's in our world, like what energy is in our world,
Yeah.
personally, electronically, professionally, all of the above. And we have to find safety in order to speak our truth.
Yeah.
And then the courage comes in with the discernment of knowing when and how and what and who.
Absolutely. And if you're familiar with David Hawkins and the scale
Yeah.
of consciousness, the 200, wait, is it 150 is the scale of courage.
Yes.
And anything over there is where change happens. So anything below courage, you're stuck. But it's at the level of courage where transformation happens. And so if you're wanting to make your life and the world better, it's going to require the level of courage and above.
Yes. So it requires being open and exposing yourself to those things. So, like your podcast, this podcast, there are ways that we can expose ourselves to information and understanding and that we can kind of digest to help us along the journey so we can get up into that courage place if we're feeling stuck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay. So we're getting ready to be finished. I have only one more. I have a couple more questions. But is there anything you wanted to share along these lines of having courage to speak your truth that we have not yet covered, or that's something that's on your heart?
Um, just when I hear the word courage, it reminds me of my 2025 theme was courageous curiosity. I found myself in a place of judgment of thinking that, especially around politics, that people that didn't have the same view as I did were somehow at fault. And that was a judgment thing. And then I didn't want people to judge me, and yet I'm judging other people. And so I was really focused on being more curious as to understanding why people may have thought that. And so I think that there's this thing around courageous curiosity that you don't have to agree with people to at least try to understand why they came to the conclusions that they have.
Mm-hmm. The second and third questions, and understanding. Yeah, I love that. That is wonderful. That is great advice. So, our final two questions are my favorites, I think. Anyway, the first one is, what is the most memorable food you have ever eaten? I mean, you've traveled all around, you've had all kinds of experience. What's the most memorable?
Well, we like to get our kids to try new things, and I'm pretty open to new things. There's some things I just like trape and things that I don't like, but we've had rattlesnake. We often will eat alligator. Um, to me, I've had some very interesting Thai dishes, and also just very interesting like sushi. I like, to me, the mixes of the fish, and again, I'm for a vegan or vegetarian. I've had some really amazing vegan and vegetarian meals as well, but the most interesting things I've had are either really unique Thai dishes or um, some pretty wild sushi.
Yes, a lot of people mention sushi in different ways, so that's very interesting. Okay, and our final question, which is my favorite of all, is if we were going to put a billboard up with the whole world to see with your personal quote on it that's from you to the world, what would that billboard say?
I would have to go back to my original message, that you are a divine being who has chosen this life for a reason. And I would end it with keep shining like 10,000 suns.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So, everybody, I know you're listening to Mark and loving everything he's saying. So, check out the show notes and follow and hunt him down on social media and stuff. Listen to his podcast. All the links are in there. And be sure that you let him know you heard him here on Someone Gets Me. So, thank you, Mark, for being on the show with me today. This is so much fun.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to having you on Leading with Purpose
Yeah,
this
so
next week.
that'll be really fun.
Yeah.
So, I want to remind everybody to keep your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you because you're a rock star. You're here on purpose with a mighty purpose. So, go out there and let your light shine. And remember that you are beautiful, lovable, and capable. Until the next episode, if Someone Gets Me, this is Mark and Dianne saying, be well. Thank you for listening. I trust you gained some valuable inspiration and information. Please join me and other visionaries in the Someone Gets Me Facebook group. Or for more information on my services and additional episodes, visit someonegetsme.com. Again, thanks for listening.